Hey everyone, Sheila here from Life with Pets. So after the video that I did a week or two ago about the battery powered air pump, I got so many questions about it. Would it run a sponge filter? How long would it actually run for? Will it keep the fish alive? If the filters aren't running, do you lose the bacteria? So I thought that I would do a follow-up video just to answer some of those questions. For those of you that maybe haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, I did a video on the battery powered air pump, and it basically runs on batteries. Obviously it's a battery powered air pump, and so you put the batteries in it. It also comes with the tubing and an air stone. I showed it running the way it was intended, but a lot of people were asking, could you actually put the tubing into a sponge filter and would that work also? And I'm also going to talk about whether you'll lose the bacteria if you don't actually run a filter or your sponge filter during a power outage. So I'm going to use Belfin's tank as the example tank. Now this one does have a very large sponge filter. Against my hand there you can see that this is a really big sponge filter. Now I do know that it will work with the smaller sponge filters that you would maybe typically have in, say, a betta fish tank. However, I did want to test it out on a larger one and just see whether it would power it or not. Now on the smaller sponge filters it did do about, I think it was about a day and a half, whereas without it going through a sponge filter you can get 2 to 2.5 days out of the batteries. However, I do think with the larger ones you're not going to get as long, just because it will take a little more power to run them and suck the water through. So I am going to test that out today and I'm going to set it up. I'm going to show you how you would do it. And so I'm going to take this sponge filter out of this tank now, and it is going to make a huge mess. So when I've done that, I will then come back and we'll fit it to the air pump. Guys, just look at the mess that has created in there. Thankfully we do have the hang on back filter, so that is definitely going to help clean some of that up. So while the sponge filter is out, you can see the mess it has made. So I am actually going to take the opportunity to get rid of all the moss. Belfin does like to destroy moss balls, and so I am going to just get rid of some of the mess that is underneath the sponge filter here, and that will help clean the tank up as well. There is just so much stuff floating around in here right now, but anyway, it's a good opportunity to get it cleaned up. Okay, so I've got the sponge filter out, and in case you're wondering, all this on the top is actually just sand. Now if you are going to use the pump with a sponge filter, you are going to need more tubing, because the tubing that they actually give you is not long enough. So I have this tubing here. I would also highly recommend a check valve as well, and basically what this is going to do, it would stop any water backflowing into the battery air pump. I would actually recommend using this regardless. I don't know whether I said that on the last video, but I know that I meant to. I think I might have done it as an insert at the end. So all you're basically going to do with this is put the tubing onto the return check valve, and I usually really struggle with this, but you don't need it to go all the way in, because usually once it's on then it will not come off once it's actually on. You're also going to need to cut a little piece of tubing off the end before it goes onto the sponge filter, because you're going to need this to go onto the other end of the check valve. So you've got a piece of tubing on each end, and then the other end will obviously then go onto your air pump. So that's the way it's going to work, sort of onto the air pump. And I'm going to just turn that on. Yeah, I don't know whether you can hear that, but that is actually running through. And then you're wanting this tubing, obviously you don't want it in knots like this, so let me just get rid of that. Okay, and then you're then going to put this onto the little valve that's in here, and I actually couldn't get this off before I was going to, oh there we go. So there's a little notch on the top there, that is where the tubing's going to sit. So you want to put it through the plastic tube and then put it onto the little notch. And like I say, I always struggle with these things. This is just not my forte at all, but there we go. And then you want to put that back. So now that is all ready to work, and I'm going to just switch it on again. And I'm just going to switch it on again. And so it is definitely running at this point, so we'll see how it actually manages through a large sponge filter, and then I am going to leave it running and see how long it actually lasts. So I will do a test for you guys, because I know that these do last about 2 to 2.5 days not working through a sponge filter. Like I say, I did do it through a smaller sponge filter and I got about 1.5 days. Now it could be the batteries, I guess there's a lot of different factors that come into play, but I will try this for you. So I'm going to put this back into the tank and let's see how the flow is once it's in the tank. As always, Belfin likes to be in camera shot. He is just so funny. As soon as he sees the camera, he has to be there and wants to be on camera. He just loves the camera. Okay, so I am going to add this into the tank, and I don't know whether it really shows right now, but you can really see how much clearer the tank is already. It's been about 15-20 minutes that I did a quick water change on him because I wanted to clear up all the stuff that was under the filter. And so I don't know whether it really does show on camera for you, but it is so much cleaner. Alright, so I am going to put this into the tank, and Belfin, I need you to move. This guy, I tell you, he has to be into everything that you're doing. So I have made a huge mess putting this back into the tank, but as you saw before, it doesn't actually take that long to clear. That's the thing with sponge filters. When you pull them out, very often it will sort of create a cloud of debris, and that's what it's done in this case, but usually the filters will take care of it. Okay, so I am ready to turn this on. Let's see if it works. And with the check valve, I did forget to say, I don't know whether I can show you this, it does have to go a certain way round. So you have like the more chunky end of the red towards the air pump, and then the smaller end goes the other way. And this actually is very important, because if the battery was to run out, let's say you weren't home or it was overnight, then there is the risk of the water back running down the tube, and obviously it could then end up in your unit, and then that's not going to work. So the return check valve is very important. If you were wanting to run more than one sponge filter, I do think that probably would be a stretch. You could always get a two-way valve as well. I will leave links to all of these and the sponge filters and all that sort of stuff in the description box below if you want to take a look at them. Okay, so let's see if this is going to work on the large one. And yes, it does. I don't know whether you can hear, it is quite noisy, but that is a small price to pay if it's going to keep your fish alive. So I am going to just turn it off for now, just because obviously it is so loud and I want you to be able to hear me, not the pump. So as you can see, it does work. As I said before, I will run a full test to see how long that battery runs on this very, very large sponge filter. The other question a lot of people were asking was whether you will lose your bacteria in the sponges. Now, I can only speak from my experience. We didn't have power for 9 days last year, and we didn't run them through the air pumps because we were very, very short on batteries, and we knew that we didn't usually get as long off the batteries if you did it through the sponge filter. So we didn't do it that way. So we went 9 days, no power, no nothing running through any of the sponge filters, and we didn't lose a cycle in a single tank. And at the time we actually had, I think it was 9 tanks set up, so we didn't lose our cycle in any of those, so we had no issue whatsoever. Now, the reason people often think that you are going to lose it is because water ideally does need to be flowing through the filter so that it's bringing in the food to the bacteria. That's basically the theory behind it. But in this case, there must have just been enough in there because, like I say, we didn't lose our cycle. Now, the only thing I will say that is possible that it could have contributed to it as well was the fact that all our tanks are very, very heavily planted. In fact, talking about plants, if you're wondering what these are up here, these are our holding plants for our Anubias Nana Petite that we do sell on our website, and this is just where we hold them. I have to put them in the little boxes, otherwise Mr. Belfin here will eat them. He is just a plant destroyer, and that does include Anubias as well, which is very unusual for goldfish, but this guy eats just about everything. You can see all the destroyed moss balls that he has there, and he has some there as well. He just destroys plants. So plants will have made a difference, I do think, as well. However, overall, I do think that it was just the case of it was only 9 days and it didn't really make that much difference. So I will check back in a day or two, however long it takes for the battery to run out on this, and I'll let you guys know how long it lasted. Hey guys, so it is 4 days later and we have ran the tests as promised, and let me tell you, the noise drove us crazy. We did get a very surprising result with the device, and that was that it ran for 3.5 days. Now, we didn't even get that when we ran it just as it was intended, never mind through a sponge filter. So I have no idea if there was something wrong with the batteries that we had last time. We had them for a while, and the batch that I did use this time were brand new. We only received them a few weeks ago. Whether that was the difference, I've no idea, but that filter ran for a really long time. And as you saw, can you see him in the background? He is desperate for attention. So as you saw, we ran it on a really big sponge filter. So I am just so surprised by the results. I'm very happy with them. I think probably my biggest takeaway from it is that you need really new batteries, and they will give you the longest time. So very happy about that. I do hope that the video was helpful and maybe gave some insight into what you can and can't do with this device. I will leave a link in the description box below if you want to take a look at it, and if you haven't seen the previous video where I talked about the importance of having them, then I will leave a little link in the top iCard so that you can take a look at it. Alright guys, shall we just appreciate him for a few minutes? He is just desperate for attention here. I think probably he wants feeding. He is due to be fed, so that might have something to do with it. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're not subscribed to this channel and you want to see more videos like this, then please do so. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.